Welcome everybody to Randomjeanc Reviews Hand of Fate, where the mysterious dealer kinda looks like the merchant from Resident Evil 4?
Welcome!
Hand of Fate is a very unique indie game and possesses a combination of multiple game genres that's kind of just mixed together. It's basically an action RPG with roguelike elements and a card game with deck building elements. You are faced with a mysterious masked man who is known as the dealer, who seems to be all magical and tells you to play a game with him. The adventures you go on, your journey, the trials, the perils, the monsters, and the luck and everything you face, he is in charge of. While it may seem that it's just a tabletop card game, things may be more than they seem. You are playing more than a game, I'll say that. This game was released February 17th, 2015, but I only just played it this year. It was developed by Defiant Development, a relatively new development team that has no other previous titles other than this one. Hand of Fate retails for $24.99 and was a result of yet another successful Kickstarter project. Let's face against the dealer and see which challenges he sets up on us and whether or not he's worth dealing with. Get it? Dealing with? Because he deals cards. Just as mysterious as the man who sits in front of you, the story is rather vague. Every time you defeat a boss and conquer a quest, the dealer provides a tiny sliver of new info, and sometimes hints as to what's going on around you, but not much is given. It's enough to pique the interest, that's for certain, but the story of Hand of Fate is not the strongest aspect. I wish we were given more details and more story, but in a game like this, it's not truly necessary, but would certainly have aided the game more if it had more than what it does. Hand of Fate's best aspect is definitely its presentation. The whole idea of sitting down on an actual table and playing a card game that comes to life as you progress. The cards are nicely illustrated, the designs of the cards and types of cards and items are really incredibly varied. Sitting with a mysterious man who pretty much wants to kill you with his card game and yet wants to be fair at the same time. The dealer provides complete and total narration. Your character says absolutely nothing, and the whole game is improved so many times over with his magnificent voice. He has so many things to say on just about every single card you use or play, but he also randomly criticizes your decisions and actions, and it truly makes it feel like you were sitting there with him, playing with his magical cards. While he does often repeat himself, it's not so bad at all because he does not do it that often. It's so cool seeing him build the game right in front of you and shuffling the cards and doing all these kind of things just to set up the game. It's just really cool. Take a listen to his voice. Just listen to this.
Do you expect me to tell your fortune? No. A fortune teller is at their most base and despicable when they begin to believe their own lies. Of course, I am different. My powers are genuine.
Cool, man. The sound effects when it comes to the weapons and striking and all the creatures, they sound pretty good. They're fine. Nothing special, nothing bad. Everything does its job. The music is quite nice. It truly feels like you're somewhere out in the desert in an ancient Middle East or something. Booming drums, violins, all these kinds of instruments that play. Very varied and very cool too. The only thing that is quite disappointing about the music is the fact that there aren't many tracks to listen to. So many of the same tracks play over and over and over when you encounter monsters and when you fight. It starts to get really old real fast. Luckily, the encounters are short and the same songs that do play are really good, so it's not a major issue, but it can get old. It would have helped if we had a few more songs that would be used for combat, maybe even give unique boss themes for certain bosses. That would have been cool too. While the graphics are not exactly the best, they are for the most part pretty good, with a few clunky and awkward scenarios that do not look that great and some weird glitchy death animations sometimes. Overall, the graphics are pretty nice. I do love the mostly varied environments you are taken to. You have just about everything. The game itself, just as I mentioned before, is rather unique, and I greatly appreciate the originality of it. To win, all you have to do is defeat the boss at the end of the quest. How you get there and what you do to get there is what truly makes Hand of Fate addicting. Before you set out to kill the boss creature, you have to build your card deck. First, beginning with equipment, varying from shields, helmets, rings, and even magical abilities. Some weapons are slower than others, and I wish the game would tell you that, but the only way to know if a weapon is faster than the other or slower than the other is to equip it and use it yourself. It'd be nice to know, hey, this weapon is slow, or hey, this weapon is really fast. That would have been really cool. It's just a minor inconvenience. In general, swords and axes are fast, while blunt weapons like hammers hammers and maces are slower. Some weapons even have abilities that can be used, like one of the most powerful ones that lets you use a lightning spill. There are some really creative loadouts as they tweak the rules for that entire run. It determines what starting equipment you will begin with, how much health, food, and other effects you will be affected by. For example, the Curse of the Lion Prince loadout starts you out with just 40 HP, which is extremely low considering the default is 100. But every time you kill a monster, you will gain 2 bonus HP permanently per kill, up to a max of 200 HP. While the Shadow Agent loadout makes you extra lucky, so when you have to pick the right card at the right time to beat an encounter, it's much easier because the cards shuffle less and much slower. But at the cost of having a reduced opportunity to combo attacks together. The higher the combos you have, the more damage you'll do and the faster you'll attack. And by choosing certain loadouts, you have the opportunity to unlock more cards by getting tokens, but we'll talk more about that later. What truly stood out to me in Hands of Fate is that you also choose which cards you will face in that dungeon. That's right, peeps, you will have to choose what kind of challenges you will face. Each card you encounter are called encounters. Who would have thought, right? Anyways, you have to have a set number of cards, and as you progress, more dangerous cards will be locked into your deck that cannot be removed until you meet the requirements, usually having to beat a future boss or complete other requirements. Every time you successfully complete an encounter card, you will be rewarded. Sometimes it's as simple as picking a few of the given options to getting the right card or doing some sort of deed. You know, I actually thought that when the game shuffled the card, it was completely impossible to catch the card being moved, but in actuality, you can track the cards with your eyes and follow it to the right placement. So for like half the game, I was randomly just ignoring moving cards, assuming that the movement of cards was just for show. Oops. So don't be a noob sauce like me. Actually follow the cards with your eyeballs. Some cards are worth the trouble of encountering because of the rewards. One of my favorites is the treasure chest because sure, you may get a chance of getting booby trapped, but you also have a massive chance of obtaining plenty of gold cards, and the chance is very high for success. But be wary because if you fail an encounter, some of the punishments can be very high, such as losing large chunks of health, to losing equipment, to permanently losing health, or getting cursed. Once you set your cards in play, the dealer will add his own cards to the deck, and he will pretty much show them to you for a little bit, but you won't know what they do until you come up across them. He will always add shops, traps, and other cards. To progress to the boss, you have to find ladders, caves, boats, or basically other encounter cards that let you travel further in your quest. You usually have directions you can move, but not always if the layout is narrow. And don't forget, every time you move onto another card, you will use one food. If you have food, you will heal every time you move, and you can move backwards or forwards, just about any direction you want. But run out of food and you will begin to starve and lose health every time you move. And certain loadouts really take a toll on your health, like the lion one, which makes you lose -10 per turn. Don't worry, there are shops strewn about that will help you buy food, equipment, remove curses, or even buy blessings that can turn the game around. Provided you have the gold, of course, or get lucky enough to find those shops. Combat is extremely simple. You just have to really pretty much just mash buttons to win. But there is some strategy. You have a shield you can counter attacks with when the green icon flashes above an enemy, and that same goes for ranged attacks. Luckily, when you counter, you are invincible and can't be hit. But be careful, as red icons signify that the attack can't be blocked and you must roll out of the way or walk out of range. You can also use your shield to bash enemies to break their guard and possibly stun them too. The combat is simple but addicting. I highly recommend you try to play with a controller of some sort. I tried the keyboard and mouse, but let's just say it's not the ideal way to play. If your health reaches 0, then it's game over and you die. You have to start all over again, and remember, this is a roguelike, so each time you set out on a quest, it will be very different from the first time you did it, or the millionth time you do it, and I love that. Don't worry, the game starts out simple and easy enough, but it will get extremely hard as you go on, mostly depending on what cards the dealer sets loose upon you. Every time you beat a boss, you unlock new cards, equipment, and encounters to mess around with. Another unique way to unlock more cards is with tokens. To know if that encounter will reward a token upon completion is to look at the card. If you complete it, then you unlock the new set of equipment or more encounters for your deck. You can only unlock a token once, so after that card will never give you any more tokens, but will still have the same effects. So it's a magnificent way to encourage the player to mix up their cards to get some really powerful new cards that can't be unlocked otherwise. Some cards even have entire quest lines dedicated to unlocking them, and really this is where most of the fun is. These cards have colored tokens. Some of them are really cool as they tell stories that feel like an adventure novel and offer some powerful cards as well. There was one where I had to defeat powerful mages, another one where I had to fight a lich, which was insanely hard counting by all the times I freaking died. But I got some cool gear in the end, and I remember there was this other one that had like 5 parts where I had to help a goblin steal treasures. These encounters are some of the most fun to complete because you have so many choices, and because the writing feel like it's a mini novel, it's a book, so the words are very descriptive and paint pictures in your mind, and it's great. Hand of Fate is a damn cool game. Seriously, it's very unique and addicting, and it's completely oozing with originality. I can't remember the last time I was playing a card game with a mysterious magical man that has the power to screw me over or help me at the same time. The combat is simple but addicting, the deck building is super fun and customizable. The loadouts really let you customize your experience however you want and yet offer unique tokens for completing special encounters, getting that one powerful shield, that one powerful weapon, or whatever piece of equipment that really makes you feel powerful is one of the best parts of Hand of Fate. It's one of those games where you just want to keep trying again and again, even if you lose. You're gonna be like, just one more game, or maybe I'll get lucky this time. I just wish the game was longer. It's really short for $24.99, but luckily there is an endless mode to satisfy your needs, and there is plenty to do if you want to 100% this game. On top of free updates that add more encounter cards and quest lines, and DLC that add more loadouts but not any more bosses, which is kind of a shame. Still, even if there's only 12 bosses to the game, I kind of wish there was at least 16 or more. I only managed to squeeze out 15 hours of gameplay. The story is very short, doesn't have a real satisfying ending to it story-wise. It just kind of ends with many questions unanswered, but still, the actual gameplay of the finale was magnificent. It could not have been any better. I just wish defeating the final boss would have offered more in the story department. It would have been really cool if the game had multiplayer. That would be like awesome. I'm sure there's a certain way to do it where each person would have turns, maybe even be in the same dungeon. And I can easily see that in the sequel if a sequel is made, which I would instantly buy, by the way. I won't ever forget Hand of Fate as it is very memorable and addicting. With all that being said, I decided to deal Hand of Fate a 8.0. Great game. And for Steam users, they feel that out of 2,882 reviews, it has achieved a 92% approval rating. There is a 1.2 difference between us, but you know what? That's fine by me. Thank you all for watching as always. I hope you dug this indie title as much as I did. It's nice and refreshing to once again review short indie games, but don't worry, more AAAs are on their way. Mafia 3, sorry. And Crackdown 3. Oh, excuse me. If you want to watch my XCOM 2 review, click right here. And for my review of Kingdom, which is another roguelike game, click right here. Like and subscribe and share if you care. This is Randomjeanc signing off.